The jungle moon of Zarnax 9 wasn't known for diplomacy. It was a lawless, feral place where only the ruthless survived, and even they didn't last long. On this world, deep within the canopy-strangled territories, the Grax Syndicate thrived. Raiders, scavengers, and mercenaries drawn from a dozen worlds called its rusted compounds home. Their leader, Kralch, a six-limbed Vroken with a voice like broken glass, believed in strength above all else. Weakness wasn't tolerated, especially not from recruits. The transport vessel dropped the new batch of conscripts like refuse into the training pit. Dirt, heat, and the sharp tang of ozone greeted them. A mixture of species, hulking Caraxians, twitchy Skarn, a wiry two-valent scout, and one human. She stood quietly, boots dusty, arms at her sides. No armor, no cybernetic enhancements, no exosuit. Just a standard-issue uniform and a narrow-eyed gaze that didn't flicker. Kralch stalked past the line of recruits, his claws tapping the metal ramp. He stopped in front of her. "This?" he rasped, flicking one of his claws toward her face. "This is a joke, yes? This is bait for the wildlife?" The others laughed, wet, snarling, and guttural sounds. She said nothing. Didn't blink. He leaned in. "You humans! Always so soft. Always believing the galaxy owes you something because you survived your dirtball planet." Still no reaction. Just that steady look. Another bandit, a jagged-plated Felrix named Gora, sneered. "I give her 6 hours. Jungle eat her by dusk. She won't last that long." Someone muttered behind him. "Barely even breathes like a soldier." The laughter grew. Wagers were placed. A countdown began in their minds. The others ignored her from then on, ghosted her presence entirely. She was written off before she'd taken a step. The Grax didn't believe in formal training. They believed in trials. They dropped their recruits into the deep wild, armed with only a field knife, a ration pack, and a map with missing coordinates. The goal wasn't to win. It was to come back alive. Most didn't. The group was loaded onto skimmers and scattered across the jungle perimeter. The humidity was oppressive, the trees impossibly tall, and the noises unrelenting. Every sound out there was hunting something. Once deployed, Lena Rowe moved silently. Not with fear, but precision. Her posture was controlled, her steps measured. No panic, no heavy breathing, no erratic motion. She didn't rush. She didn't follow the map. She walked into the jungle like she belonged there. The aliens watched her from a distant console, flicking through drone feeds. At first, they barely glanced at hers, more entertained by the frantic scrambling of the others, especially the Skarn recruit who screamed at shadows. But by hour 2, something about Lena's feed drew their attention. She was calm. Unbothered. She'd already built a basic lean-to using fronds and vine bark. A fire flickered low and smokeless. Her knife was clean, but not unused. Kralch scoffed. "She's lucky, that's all. No scent. No spoor." But others were uneasy. A two-valent gunner reviewed the footage again. "She's not lucky. She's deliberate." By dusk, 2 recruits were missing. One presumed dead after a blood splatter pattern was found on a tree. Another was climbing a cliff, desperate to escape some unseen threat. Lena had not moved from her small camp. The predators in the area should have noticed her. They hadn't. Nothing came close. It was as if something larger was already staking a claim nearby. She crouched for a long time at the tree line, head tilted toward the darkness, eyes tracking something not visible on the drones. When she stood, it was slow and deliberate. She placed her hand on the trunk of a gnarled tree and stayed that way for nearly 10 minutes, breathing in rhythm with the jungle. The mocking in the control room stopped. The Grax weren't superstitious, but they knew patterns. And this one didn't make sense. Gora muttered. "She's too quiet." Kralch grunted. "Silence is just fear wrapped in patience." But she wasn't afraid. That much was clear now. The jungle didn't take her. It watched her. Within hours of the drop, the jungle began to cool the weak. The dense canopy trapped heat like a furnace, while the underbrush hid roots sharp enough to slice flesh and creatures venomous enough to paralyze in seconds. One of the Skarn panicked after hearing a low growl and bolted into the mist. His tracker went dead 3 minutes later. No one went to recover him. Lena moved like she had no intention of fighting the jungle, only surviving it. Where others made noise, she absorbed the silence. Her breathing was minimal. Her pace slow, never rushed. The ration pack was unopened. She found hydration in condensation collected on leaves, filtered it with a portable straw she'd modified before deployment. 3 others had already fallen into crevices hidden by thick foliage. One screamed for help for 20 minutes before something large cut him off. The drones picked up movement near his signal, but no one could identify what it was. In contrast, Lena hadn't so much as tripped. Every step was tested before her foot touched ground. She stopped often, listening, not just for threats, but for patterns. She identified fruit-bearing vines safe for consumption using a multi-spectrum scan, then ignored them in favor of a fat beetle she caught under a loose stone. She crushed it, consumed it raw, and kept moving. Efficient. Purposeful. There was no flinch, no hesitation. On day 2, weather shifted. A storm hit with a wall of acidic rain. The larger aliens relied on sealed armor or temporary energy barriers. Lena had neither. She used sap from a thick bark tree to coat her arms and face. It hardened in seconds, shielding her from the worst of the downpour. She found a shallow cave, not for shelter, but to collect runoff through a carved channel system. While others waited out the storm, she harvested, boiled, and stored water. By the 3rd night, the drones noted something peculiar. Predators were active all over the grid, except in a growing radius around Lena. Infrared picked up 4 kills near her location, none of which were her doing. Massive, unseen attackers had torn through the underbrush, then vanished. Her reaction to the distant screams was minimal. She glanced once toward the source, then resumed sharpening her blade with the flat of a stone. She hadn't spoken since deployment. Not a word. Not to herself, not to the drones. Every alien recruit had transmitted complaints, curses, or requests for aid, none from Lena. Her communicator remained silent. The syndicate analysts began cross-referencing her file. There was nothing remarkable on record. No elite clearance. No known special forces background. Just a low-tier recruit from a colony world with a history of wilderness exposure. But the data didn't match the performance. At camp, she set up a tripwire system using strands of her own hair and a sap adhesive. Not to alarm, but to feel movement. One strand snapped in the early hours. She didn't panic. Instead, she stood, watched, and waited. The drone feed recorded the unmistakable outline of a massive shape passing behind her, 3 meters tall, heavily muscled quadruped. She didn't move until it was gone. By dawn, the count was down by nearly half. Kralch reviewed the drone logs again. Every alien death was chaotic, erratic, reactive. Every human movement was planned, conserved, optimized. Not once did she run. Not once did she show fear. One of the bandits commented, "She's not trying to win. She's just adapting." Another corrected him. "No. She's waiting." By now, even the more cynical observers had stopped mocking. No one was placing bets anymore. No one laughed when her feed was displayed. At the start, the jungle had been a test. Now, it was the edge of something else, an intelligence not entirely hers, but somehow drawn to her. She didn't need to conquer the wild. She'd already become part of it. The kills started to follow a pattern. Recruits disappeared during the night, but not without evidence. Ripped armor, deep claw marks, signs of immense force, bones broken not from combat, but from being crushed. The drones struggled to track what was doing it. Heat signatures flared and vanished in seconds. Motion detectors spiked, then went dead. Whatever was hunting out there was fast, intelligent, and deliberate. Lena remained untouched. No changes in heart rate. No shift in routine. Her perimeter traps stayed untouched. Not even scavengers approached her space. Her movements grew more synchronized with the environment. She didn't walk through the jungle. She navigated it like someone tracing a map only she could see. The wildlife around her adjusted too. Birds fell silent as she passed. Insects paused. Predators circled others, but never her. One drone captured a moment that drew immediate attention. Lena crouched near a set of massive tracks, fresh, three-toed impressions sunk half a foot deep into the mud. She studied them without fear, fingers brushing the edges. Her expression didn't change. She didn't try to flee. She followed them. She wasn't the only one tracking the apex predator. Syndicate patrols deployed to intercept it never returned. A scout unit of 4 Vroken commandos armed with thermal lances entered her quadrant. Within 20 minutes, their biometrics flatlined. Only one drone remained operational long enough to transmit partial footage. It showed movement, blurring speed, impossible grace. Not a beast. A calculated killer. What disturbed the viewers wasn't the creature. It was Lena standing still as it passed her by, mere feet away, and didn't touch her. No command. No submission. Just mutual awareness. The footage went silent afterward. Audio cut as the creature turned toward the drone. Static followed. It didn't return. Analysis teams began flagging the footage. The apex wasn't avoiding Lena. It was aware of her. Choosing not to act. This wasn't typical predator behavior. Nothing survived long on Zarnax 9 without aggression. But this creature wasn't aggressive toward her. That required a different kind of logic, one beyond instinct. She knelt by a riverbed that night. Her reflection shifted as something massive moved behind her in the trees. No response. No flinch. She dipped her hand into the water, drank, and stared into the dark. A behavioral specialist reviewed her body language. She's not displaying dominance or submission. She's displaying familiarity. Kralch dismissed it. Coincidence. Predators don't bond. The next day, a drone recorded her leaving symbols, etched into bark with her blade. Angular, deliberate, repeating every 100 meters. Not human language. Not known military code. But it formed a perimeter. Soon after, a patrol from the Grax team attempted to retrieve her. They never reached her. Surveillance showed them deter unintentionally, confused, equipment malfunctioning, maps useless. One of them, on his final recorded moment, shouted that he could hear breathing behind him. The final seconds showed eyes glowing in the trees, then darkness. Lena walked through the same region minutes later. No interference. Her tracker showed a consistent pace, no deviations, no pursuit. If she was afraid, it never registered. By the end of the 5th day, she had crossed 3 predator territories and hadn't fired a single shot. The environment shifted with her presence. The usual chaos of Zarnax 9, howling, screeching, the snapping of trees, seemed to calm in her proximity. Drones recorded extended silences following her path, as though the jungle itself waited. The question began circulating quietly in the syndicate base: was she controlling it, or was it protecting her? No one had an answer. What they did know was that whatever walked behind Lena Rowe was more than an apex predator. It was making choices. And those choices kept her alive. The command structure of the Grax syndicate grew unsettled. What began as entertainment, mocking a human recruit they assumed would die within hours, had evolved into a security concern. The kill count among other initiates had reached critical levels, including veteran handlers sent to enforce boundary compliance. Surveillance wasn't reliable anymore. Equipment shorted out, feeds cut without warning, and drones failed to return from her proximity zone. Whatever she was walking with couldn't be tracked by standard tech. That alone made her a threat. Kralch authorized an override. Lena was now classified as an anomaly, not a recruit. Protocol dictated elimination. A strike team was formed, 6 elite enforcers equipped with dampeners, silent propulsion, and neural disruptors. Their objective: terminate her cleanly, extract her DNA, and secure any remains of the predator. They dropped 2 kilometers from her last recorded location and began their approach under full signal blackout. Within minutes, their communication fractured. Not jammed, just gone. The audio logs caught only breathing. Not theirs. Something deeper. Heavier. As they closed in, one soldier, an ex-rocked enforcer, triggered his emergency beacon manually. The signal showed him surrounded, not by multiple targets, but by one massive heat signature. It wasn't attacking. It was waiting. Only fragments of his final transmission survived. She looked at me. Didn't speak. Didn't run. Just nodded. And it moved. All 6 enforcers were lost. For the first time, Crouch hesitated. He didn't believe in superstition, but neither did he underestimate survival patterns. Lena Rowe had now outlived 2/3 of her intake. Not through combat. Through coexistence. And the jungle, which consumed everything else, had adopted her. Further analysis confirmed what they feared. The creature's behavior had changed since her arrival. Previous apex movement had been rare, territorial, and hostile. Now, its kill zones had narrowed, focused solely on threats moving toward her. It was showing restraint. That implied understanding. Strategy. The analysts turned to behavioral prediction models, but nothing matched. No known human or hybrid subject had recorded similar outcomes on high-risk ecosystems. And no apex predator, especially one from Zarnax 9, had displayed selective aggression based on proximity to a specific individual. It wasn't protection in the defensive sense. It was a territorial boundary with her at the center. One Grax overseer posited a theory. She's no longer prey. She's been accepted. Not everyone accepted that. A mercenary captain demanded hard evidence. The syndicate answered by releasing a modified stalker beast, engineered to operate independent of the predator hierarchy, laced with stimulants and blind to fear. They dropped it near her path, ensuring no exit route. What followed wasn't a fight. It was eradication. The drone caught a moment, a blur, a shape of impossible mass ripping through brush. The stalker's signal vanished instantly. When the feed cleared, Lena stood over the corpse, untouched. She didn't gloat. She didn't even inspect it. She kept walking. The Grax had seen enough. She had moved past evaluation. She represented a deviation from galactic biological norms. Either through instinct, unknown augmentation, or something deeper, she had synced with a force the syndicate couldn't control. Attempts to recall her failed. Communications routed through satellites didn't reach her. Tactical incursions continued to vanish without trace. Even aerial surveillance became useless. The Predator had begun targeting airborne units now. Crouch held one final meeting. His directive was clear: she would be left alone. The jungle had chosen. Whether it was through understanding, alignment, or something older, she had become part of the balance. And the cost of testing that balance had grown too steep. The remaining observers stopped tracking her in real time. Instead, they logged sightings. Each entry was the same. A shape walking through wilderness. No gear. No fear. And always, behind her, something massive just out of view. No longer a human in hostile territory. Now something more. Time passed. The trial ended. No extraction was sent for her. Of the original group of recruits, only Lena Rowe returned. Not in chains, not escorted, she walked back alone. No wounds. No signs of malnutrition or fatigue. Just silence, steady steps, and the weight of something unseen moving just beyond sensor range. The Grax guards at the perimeter didn't move to intercept her. One of them dropped his weapon. Another stepped aside without conscious thought. No order had been given. She entered the base like it was hers. No announcements, no demands. Her presence altered the air. The usual noise of engines, laughter, and mechanical hum dulled. Every sentient organism felt it, an invisible shift. The apex was no longer somewhere in the jungle. It was here, tethered to her presence, a constant shadow at the edge of awareness. Cameras failed when aimed at her path. Motion sensors glitched. No threat presented itself, yet no one could shake the sense that danger walked just behind her. Crouch watched from the upper decks. His expression unreadable. He didn't bark orders. He didn't challenge her. The mocking tone from days ago had vanished entirely. She approached the central chamber without hesitation. No guards intervened. They didn't want to find out what might happen if they tried. She didn't speak. She placed her identifier chip on the command console and stepped back. It was protocol for exiting recruits, present proof of survival. But no one checked her credentials. They already knew. What followed was unprecedented. Kralch announced her completion. Not just a pass. She was marked exempt from future trials, granted full syndicate clearance. No rank. No assignment. No explanation. She could go anywhere, take anything. No one would question it. Some questioned his judgment. He silenced them with a single sentence. She came back, and it let her. Whispers spread through the compound. What had she done? What had she become? It wasn't just survival. It wasn't luck. She had crossed into something unspoken, earned the recognition of a force no species had ever tamed. And the syndicate, built on dominance, had no system for that. They had rules for strength, brutality, fear, but not for understanding. Lena didn't use her newfound status. She didn't issue commands or take advantage. She stayed 2 days, then left quietly. No ship. No escort. Just walked out the same gate she'd entered. Some thought she'd returned to the jungle. Others believed she was testing boundaries, hers or theirs. A week later, a pirate cruiser tried to land on the far side of the jungle moon, unaware of the recent changes. The ship never launched again. Wreckage was found scattered over several kilometers, shredded from the inside out. No crew survived. And no one retrieved the bodies. After that, the Grax established a new designation on Zarnex 9's map. Not a territory. A void. An exclusion zone. No patrols. No scans. Simply marked in red as Apex Corridor. At its center, a symbol. Not of the predator, but of the human who walked with it. Across other worlds, rumors spread. Some called her the Apex Whisperer. Others claimed she was an ancient weapon reawakened. But those who'd seen the footage, those who'd felt the presence in her wake, knew better. She wasn't a myth. She was evidence. Evidence that humans, underestimated across the galaxy, didn't need claws, scales, or size to survive. That sometimes, the most dangerous creature in the wild wasn't the one with fangs. It was the one who understood the silence. Who didn't fight the darkness but moved through it, until it recognized her as its own. Lena Rowe didn't return for glory. She didn't speak of what she'd seen. She didn't explain how the predator had chosen her. She didn't have to. Because in the galaxy's most unforgiving place, where strength meant everything, she had walked unarmed through death, and come back with its loyalty.